Hi guys, so my name is Abrie and I teach AP Art History, and I just want to tell you guys a little bit about the course and what to expect. But before I do that, let me just give you a little bit of information about me. So I'm South African, and that's where I'm staying right now. But actually I did stay in China for 5 years, from February 2015 to 2020, February 2020. So I was there for 5 years. I lived in Xi'an and Beijing and Shenzhen. And one of the things I loved the most about China was the ancient history and ancient civilizations, and of course art, because that's what I studied at university, fine art, and that's what my degree is in. So it's something I'm very interested in and really love. And yeah, and just for interest's sake, I'm actually still an artist, and I still make paintings and sculptures and various artworks. Okay, but enough about me. Let me tell you about the course. So AP Art History starts with global prehistoric. And prehistoric means before writing, right? But there was art long before writing. And global means all around the world. So we start with global prehistoric. And then we start moving on to some of the greatest early civilizations. So we begin with Mesopotamia, which was in the Middle East, and then we move on to Egyptian art, and after that onto Greek and Roman art. So after that, we learn a little bit about medieval art in Europe, which was very largely influenced by Christianity, which was still becoming dominant and prominent at that time. And after that, we basically learn more about European art and North American art up until the middle of the 20th century. So of course that includes world famous artists like Michelangelo, Leonardo, and later Picasso, Van Gogh, and Andy Warhol. And there's many artists we're going to cover, which you'll discover during the course. So after covering the later European and North American art, then the course moves on to a much more worldwide kind of a perspective. So we begin with indigenous Americas, so the people that produced art in North and South America before Europeans arrived. And then we move on to African art, and after that is Asian art, which includes again the Middle East, but a little bit more modern compared to the ancient Mesopotamia, and then Chinese. So this all includes art and architecture, and India, Japan, and Korea. And after that, we look at some of Southeast Asia, namely Cambodia and Indonesia. And you're going to notice a lot of really interesting, fascinating things during this course. And one of those things is how the different religions around the world shape the art of the civilization and the culture in which it was dominant or prevalent. And there's going to be quite a bit of new vocabulary, but not too much. We'll try to balance the difficulty. And okay, and after we've covered that Asian section, we move on to Pacific art, and that's kind of in the Pacific Ocean area. So the most, I guess, well-known country there is Australia, but there's also New Zealand and some smaller islands that still, even though they're very kind of isolated in the middle of the ocean, they still produce some very great and interesting and special art. So that includes places like Hawaii and Fiji and Cook Islands, for example. So once we've kind of spread into that whole global, looking at different cultures, after that we look at global contemporary. So remember, we start with global prehistoric, so that's before writing, and then basically we go through several different units. and we end up at global contemporary. So that's basically art made in the past 50 years, maybe 50 or 60 years. And, you know, art from all countries, not just the traditional European, which, oh yes, and that's something that's changed quite a bit, is that, you know, there was too much of a focus on European art in the past. So that's, of course, still included, but the way art history is taught now is with trying to include as many other cultures, countries, and civilizations as possible. And you're going to notice some very interesting things during this course. So, for example, like I mentioned, the religion, and also how technology and globalization influenced art. So, for example, if civilization was in a trade area where they would encounter other cultures, you can actually see on the artwork how they get influence from the cultures they traded with. And technology, so if you can imagine transport, how much that changed everything, you know, being able to, you know, starting with maybe horses, and eventually moved on to cars, airplanes, ships, high-speed trains, all these kind of things. And of course now with internet, it's almost like you can get the sounds and sights of a place just by experiencing it on the internet. But, you know, if we think of things like printmaking, that made a big difference in being able to distribute art and print books about art. And of course, when photography started in the middle of the 19th century, how that added another possibility to art. And just all various art materials that were kind of invented and developed for art and architecture. For example, oil paint, and then later acrylic paint, and of course for buildings like concrete and steel. And yes, so basically I would say it's a really great, informative course, and it will actually improve your global view of the world and be able to appreciate art, hopefully not just from the past but in the present day. So if you ever go on a trip and visit an art gallery or museum, you know, you wouldn't just look at it and wonder, what is this? You would actually be able to recognize some of those things and understand why they look like that based on the course you've learned. So yes, I look forward to teaching you. And of course, during the course, I'm happy to answer questions and help you learn as much as possible. Great, that's it. Thank you.